Okay, hello again, everybody. We're back after a brief hiatus. We, just wanted to come back, do another review for you guys. So we've kind of been on a '90s kick. I don't know how it happened, but it happened.
We just fell into the '90s and we haven't been able to get out, but it's fine.
Yeah. So the last thing we talked about was Cube, which is like a really great kind of indie sci-fi horror movie.
It's the most indie sci-fi horror movie you could ever watch.
It really kind of is, basically. That's like the prototype, I would think. So this is kind of on the other end of the scale, but it is another '90s sci-fi movie. This is a sci-fi sort of adventure movie from Luc Besson, the guy who made La Femme Nikita and Leon the Professional. This is the Fifth Element, which is an action-adventure movie with Bruce Willis, Gary Oldman, and Milla Jovovich, and there's some other really cool actors in it. Ian Holm's in it. Chris Tucker's in it. The guy who we see as the president of the Federation is Debo from Friday, and Luke Perry's in this too. Cool. So, did you remember watching this as a kid?
I know what the characters looked like. I would say that I've never seen this movie before.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Very cool.
And it has another opening in Egypt in the teens. So
this is very kind of spot on because this came out before Stargate. Yeah, this came out before Stargate. But it's a very kind of similar thing, right? It's like, in Egypt there are these secret hieroglyphs, and they never really kind of like say, the aliens built the pyramids to then power this weapon. They don't say that, but that's kind of implied.
I don't know if it's necessarily implied, but it's definitely implied that they built this structure, whatever it was. So
yeah,
but still, it's Egypt and aliens.
Ancient aliens. Like we can't get away from it.
We can't get away from ancient aliens.
I think now we kind of see why that thing blew up. Because people are into that, man. People are way into the ancient aliens theory.
They really are, and like I've always said, like part of it's fun, but another part of it's just like.
I know. It's like again, ancient aliens. Okay.
But okay, it's a dated thing. I don't think we've seen anything too recent about aliens where it's Egypt or anything. I think maybe it's so that it's died out a little bit. History Channel's trying to keep it alive, though.
History Channel lives on that. Like they absolutely live on the idea of ancient aliens. Like that's like 90% of their content. But so it opens in Egypt. So we get this like kind of cool sequence of like space, and then like something kind of going really quickly towards Earth, and then we see a spaceship come approaching Earth, and then it's this Egyptian dig site. And we get this funny line, Aziz, light! Turn on the light! Because it's got this kid who's like reflecting light onto the
It's got like this giant mirror, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so then there's this guy, Billy, is there with him, who's played by Luke Perry.
Oh, that was the Luke Perry character? I have no idea what Luke Perry looks like, so I had no idea.
I'm guessing you didn't watch Beverly Hills 90210.
I didn't have a TV when that was popular.
I didn't watch. I think I remember watching like a couple seconds of it and just being like, I don't like this.
Yeah, like it wasn't
for me.
When Dawson's Creek 902 whatever it was called, or Gilmore Girls or anything like that was popular, like I was outside in the woods and didn't know it existed.
Yeah, that sounds a lot better. It's just it's just a teeny bopper drama. Saved by the Bell is like the comedic version of that.
Okay.
So, anyway, but he was big. He was big in the 90s because of that show. Really big. And so, this was kind of a fun, I guess, cameo-ish kind of thing. Or, it is kind of like a cameo. Because, he's in it, but not for like a super long amount of time. 3
minutes of screen time, a day of work,
Yeah, exactly. It was basically a day. So yeah, Luke Perry and this other guy, they're at this big site and they're just like checking out these hieroglyphs. And the guy's like, "Oh, this thing, it's like the greatest discovery ever. It shows the battle of good and evil. Every 5,000 years, the elements come together to deter the great evil." And so then this priest comes and he's like trying to poison them. Just kind of, yeah,
he feels bad about it, but he is trying to poison them.
yeah, no, for real. But yeah, you're right. He does. He's like, I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. Like
my boss is gonna be really mad if I don't.
Yeah. Well, it almost seems like a situation where it's like, I think my boss wants me to do this, but it's like when someone screws up at work. And they're like, "Oh man, what do I do? Maybe I should just kill everybody." Like that's almost like what.
Yeah, no, we don't want to do that, dude.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because they play it off for laughs, but that's basically what he's thinking. So yeah, he brings some poison water and he tries to poison them. He's like, "Oh, great, you found this great discovery. Let's drink." And he's like, gives them the water, and he's like, "You can't toast with water," and he throws it out.
I only brought one vial of poison.
I know.
Damn it.
And then the aliens arrive. Like the ship comes down, and we see the aliens. They're called the Mandashiwan. That's what they're called. Their alien race. So, what did you think of these spacesuits that they had on these aliens?
I thought it was very non-traditional. You know, usually when we're talking about like space gods, well, aliens who have some sort of like godlike element associated with them, because like what they're it's pretty godlike. They're not what you usually see or imagine, especially in the 90s. So I liked that it was very unconventional. They just look like a bunch of like chubby insects with tiny heads. And I like that. I thought it was very unconventional. A lot of things in this movie are very bulky and very not always square, but they've got like weird dimensions and like
it's like a ovular.
Yeah. And I liked it. I thought that it was neat. Like I said, it wasn't something that I'd really seen before. This movie definitely has its own flavor of sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like every shot is like a different flavor, and I feel like it's definitely within that same kind of like Farscape-y, like weird, very weird looking type of sci-fi that tends to be overshadowed by like more popular sci-fi aesthetics, if you will.
Yeah. I really liked. Yeah, as a kid, like the more I watch this movie, the more I just like really just love it. The way that they portray these aliens is just so interesting.
Yeah, because they're clunky and they kind of waddle and stuff. They're not very graceful. Like you can tell if like it falls down, how the hell is it going to get up? You know what I mean?
It's like a turtle.
Yeah. Would you stop scratching at the blankets, please? Oh, okay.
All right.
Sorry. She's demanding to get under the covers.
Yeah. Oh.
There we go.
Gotta let her do what she wants.
She is burrowed now.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was just so cool. And again, it's like they did a practical suit for whatever these things were. And it just looks really cool. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's held up so very well. It doesn't look like crap in my opinion. I mean, it's somebody in a suit. I'm assuming it's someone in a suit, and there's like 10 of them. So
yeah.
I thought it was a good prop. Costume.
Yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, they come, they show up, and the priest's like, "Oh, they have arrived." And then the guys, the archaeologist guy sees him. He's like, "Are you guys German?" He's like, "No."
We're not.
And then they kind of knock him out or whatever using their space alien powers. And then one of them says to the priest, "War is coming. The stones are not safe on Earth anymore." And also the fifth element was on Earth too. They had the fifth element in this interesting. I don't even know what you would call that thing. It's like a metal. It's almost like
a sarcophagus almost, because we're going with Egyptian theme, but it's very not at the same time. Like the face is on the top of it, and it's like it's a weird looking face, but like it was very different.
Yeah, like you're saying, it was all just like really, really, like you said, it's a unique take on sci-fi, for sure.
It really is.
It's very different. and that's what I kind of like about it. And when we get to the future world, they paint a very interesting portrait of the future, and I think it's very different and has never really been approached again for maybe some different reasons. But yeah, the flavor of Alien and other stuff you're getting it's really cool because they do a lot of practical effects and like suits and VFX and stuff like that. But I don't know what the source of the inspiration was, but it's really out there kind of stuff.
Well, it leaves a lot of questions open too. Like, when did they make first contact? Because there's obviously they interact with other alien species, not so much on Earth, really. But when they go like on the cruise and stuff like that, there's other alien species and stuff. I think it's always interesting that oftentimes in futuristic movies, there's always like a president of Earth or something like that. There's no longer any of these just like countries with their own representatives or anything like that. Like there's a president of the Federation in Star Trek. In The Expanse, it's the United Nations is in charge of literally everything. And yeah, it's just, I think it's funny that there's always some kind of just like Earth president.
Yeah, for sure.
My little tidbit.
Yeah. We have to have a representative exactly. Of Earth.
Exactly.
So, all right. So then they're taking away, and the sarcophagus thing floats away to the spaceship. They take the stones, and then Billy freaks out. He's like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" He pulls a gun.
Luke Perry's having a fit.
Yeah, Barry has a fit. And then this duplicitous priest is like, "Oh no, Billy, no, don't shoot them. Trust me." Okay, buddy. And then Billy shoots one of them. And it basically causes the alien to get killed or something like that. It gets crushed behind his closing doors. And he tells the priest is
trying to tell him like, come on, you
hurry.
And he's just like waddling.
Yeah. He's like, no, don't worry. Time is not important, only life. And then he's like, dirt, and then he like gives him the key to the to the temple. He's like, I will fulfill my promise, and then the spaceship flies away, and then it's like 300 years later. So now we're in like the Star Trek-y kind of future,
Yeah, this is like we've made first contact. The Third World War is over, and everything just looks dirty and filthy. Yeah. And there's trash everywhere.
Yeah, there's trash everywhere. Yeah, so we get to see this. So it's a spaceship. And there's this, so basically this object kind of just appears out of nowhere in space. And they're kind of like, we don't like this, the Federation military. We don't like this, so we're going to inspect it and, do the military thing, try to blow it up. So then we see President Lindbergh, who's played by this guy, I think they called him Tiny. That was his name. Unfortunately, he died I think he died last year.
Oh, that's sad because he was in so many 90s movies, like action movies and stuff like that. He was always kind of like a heavy or the guy who would just punch people really hard.
He was usually the heavy, yeah.
Yeah, I liked that actor.
Yeah, he's great, and he's pretty fun in this. I mean, it's definitely like off the wall to say, yeah, the president of the Federation is this guy.
Well, it was nice because, like I said, he's usually just like the big guy, like the big black ops guy who's like punching people and goes rogue or whatever, or is somebody's antagonist. He's like the bad guy's like muscle or something like that. But no, he's the president of Earth in this movie. Yeah. Good for him. I like that.
Well, I think it's actually even more than Earth. I think it's literally like the Star Trek, because they even say that there's 200 billion citizens.
Oh, that's right. That's true. So he's not just a representative of Earth. Yeah. He's like everybody's representative.
Yeah, I think we don't see what of the other alien races in their Federation are, but I think that what they were going for was basically Star Trek.
Yeah, and I also like that the Federation ships kind of have a similar design of a not a Star Destroyer. Is it? It looked like with a bad guy ship in Star Wars. The name of it is
sure. Yeah. No. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. It's more oval
Yeah.
at the edges instead of pointy like a piece of pizza.
It's not. Yeah.
But like it looked like a similar design, which I don't know if was on purpose as like a wink, but I liked it. I liked the design.
Probably. It's kind of hard in sci-fi. I feel like you get very strongly drawn towards either Star Wars or Star Trek. Like
absolutely.
In media, those are like the two pulling forces. But yeah, so yeah, it's they're at this kind of meeting with the president, and he's like kind of, because this thing just appeared, this giant ball of darkness, and they're like kind of freaked out by it, and they don't know what to do with it. And then we meet Cornelius, and he's like, "Oh, don't attack it because it's pure evil. It's pure hate, and hate will just beget hate." And so I never really got this, but I feel like now recently I kind of understood, because like when I was a kid, it didn't really matter to me like what this thing was. It was a bad thing. It's bad, it's evil, and they really make the case that it's pure evil. But what they're really going for is like a cosmic horror entity. Like that's really what this is. It's a cosmic horror entity. It is a thing that almost exists outside of the bounds of our reality, that is just pure something. It's just something, and it takes pure good to defeat pure evil. And that's why, which I think is really cool. And this kind of came up recently with the Rudy Giuliani like bleeding or whatever, like he got really hot and then like the makeup started dripping.
God,
yeah.
I can't stand that thing.
I know. But we see it in this movie, like this guy who commands the ship, when the ire of the great evil is on him, he starts like dripping this brown goo, which is, I guess, a way of, because like another big kind of trope in the cosmic horror is like when a human being like interacts with something like that, it's so overwhelming that it just kills you.
Exactly. It's so, our brains can't process something that we can't maybe relate to something else, that we just maybe melt or go crazy. Like I always say like H.P. Lovecraft was known for introducing his characters to such mind-bending, unrealistic horrors that they literally go insane. Their brains explode, they go crazy, and nobody else believes them. And it's this crazy, wacky, mind-melting thing that you can't put into words or can't, again, relate it to something else, and we're just like, my brain's melting. And so they literally show people melting with a brain. At first I didn't understand like why. I wasn't sure why like their brains are melting, but hearing you say that kind of makes a lot more sense of like why it's so horrifying and crazy and mind-bending that you're just like, my brain's just not catching up to what I'm seeing.
What you're seeing basically is like when a human being interacts with this thing that is far beyond us. It exists. It's far outside of our comprehension. It's something that has existed far before us and will exist far after us. When we interact with it, it's total sensory overload, and what happens is you start excreting evil. Basically, that's what I almost feel like that's what that black stuff is. Just pure evil coming out of you.
So Rudy Giuliani is pure evil, guys.
I mean, that's what you're seeing coming out of the ears,
It's so gross.
It's super gross. Yeah.
It looked like molasses, like that they may have used or something, just like dripping out of them.
Yeah. It's so. I'll say one thing. Like it took me a long time to really kind of get what they were going for, but it always stuck in my head. Like, oh yeah, dude, he was so blown away that he started melting. Like that's a visual right there. So they decide to fire on this thing, right? So they're shooting missiles at it, and the missiles make it stronger. Like they literally make it bigger and stronger. And so they fire like 6 missiles at it, and it increases 200%. They fired 12.
They were gonna fire more. He's like, "What do we have bigger than 240? Nothing." It's
Nothing.
like,
It's
what?
like, yeah.
I don't know what 240 means, but I think that was their biggest one.
Yeah. Like, it's probably kilotons, I bet you, thinking about it now. But yeah, it just does nothing. It literally just it just laughs at them, and then it starts expanding, and then it just consumes them. It kills them. And yeah, the president's not happy. He's like, I don't want an incident. Well, you got an incident, my friend, unfortunately. So then we see Corbin Dallas in New York, in, this would be like the 2020s. Or no, I'm sorry, the 2200s. New York. And he's in like Brooklyn. He's a cab driver. So what'd you think of these cigarettes? Did you see these cigarettes? It's like filter and then like cigarette.
I was watching it with Ryan, and the moment I saw that cigarette, I'm like, oh, that would have pissed me off. As a former smoker, as a former cigarette smoker, I would have been like, no, that's why you don't smoke 100s, because it's all filter. It's just, there's no point. You don't get more. It's a lie. And I was just like, yeah, that's the most ridiculous looking cigarette I've ever seen. You get like this much tobacco and then like this much filter. It's like, that's worse. That's the worst part, is the filter. It's fiberglass. It's not good.
Yeah. I just thought that was a funny like take on, because I feel like the 90s was when
oh yeah, don't smoke. No cigarette smoking, and cigarette smoking is for Satan worshipers. And it's just,
I mean, they really like dropped the nuke on cigarettes. I feel like in the 90s too, 90s, early 2000s was when basically they had a big lawsuit about lung cancer with the tobacco companies.
And secondhand smoking, and
secondhand smoke, yeah.
What it does to like a fetus and stuff like that. And I remember a lot of that stuff in the 90s, and like you couldn't smoke in restaurants, or that was starting to be axed. I remember going to a Chili's with my parents, and there was a smoking section. Like, I remember that, and it's very different now. Like, you can't smoke anywhere indoors. I think there's one bar in Mass you can still smoke indoors, but that's Massachusetts, and they're crazy. So
yeah, so the 90s, they really dropped the hammer on smoking. I feel like before it's like, okay, yeah, smoking's bad. Like, I think for a long time people know, like, so, okay, smoking's bad.
You mean my doctor prescribing it for my cough was wrong?
Yeah. It went from that. So that was like the 60s. I forget when it was when the Surgeon General said that smoking is bad.
It's actually really bad, but have a cocktail during your third trimester. That'll be fine. Just don't smoke.
Yeah. Just have a little drink, a little sip.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of really fun kind of stuff that they put into this feature. And so then we get this commercial for Floss in Paradise with Ruby Rod. Ruby Rod's played by Chris Tucker. Like, basically they wanted to get Prince, but Prince didn't want to do it, so they had Chris Tucker do a Prince impression. Yeah.
I literally looked at Ryan and said, wow, he's like a cross between, he's like Prince basically, or like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, it's Prince. It's a more flamboyant Prince, but it is Prince. I mean, what I love, I really kind of like appreciate this character.
I loved him. I thought he was fantastic.
Ruby Rod, because like it's a real kind of thing. Like, there are people that are like that, like even today. And it's just kind of fun to just, like he really did, like 90s Chris Tucker was like, he was something. He was very good. He was very talented.
Very popular.
And like a guy, he did, after this, he then did Rush Hour, which like really blew up.
Oh yeah, were there like 3 Rush Hour movies? I think it was a trilogy.
Yeah, it was a trilogy.
My little sister actually watched Rush Hour. I've never seen Rush Hour personally, but my little sister watched it recently, and she was like, "Yeah, it was funny, but there were some things that I couldn't believe. People were laughing at. Like, there's some off-color racial jokes and stuff like that." But I also was just like, it's kind of amazing that in the 90s there was a action comedy movie led by 2 men of color.
Yes.
That people balk at today. And
I know, it's crazy.
I'm like, you have a African American and a Chinese. I'm sorry, he's Chinese, right?
He's Chinese.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, it's not good.
And I'm like, that's insane that people balk at things like that today when that was insane that it even happened then. Like, and they're action characters. Like, yeah, they're funny, but like Jackie Chan is the shit. I love Jackie Chan.
Yeah. And that was like one of the probably like the first like move Jackie Chan over to America movies.
Yeah, because he was doing a lot of like action comedies. Like foreign action comedy films, and he always liked being funny, and he has very good comedic timing. The movie The Foreigner is really good. It's a serious movie that he's in, but
it's really good. Yeah,
it's so good. He is so good in that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought, I mentioned it to my sister, and she's like, "Wow, that's actually kind of crazy that happened." And I'm like, "Yeah, that was the '90s."
Yeah, that was in the night. That is a buddy cop movie. With an Asian guy and a black guy. Yeah, that's definitely like there's not many of those that come out today that are like
no, not at all. Like I said, people lose their minds when something like that happens, and it's like it's crazy that it happened then, especially in the '90s. And yeah, I like Chris Tucker personally.
Yeah,
I think
Chris Tucker.
He's kind of annoying a little bit, but his annoyingness is what makes it charming, I think, personally.
Yeah, this character is like, he's always at a 12 on the Richter scale. Like, he's way up there.
Oh, I love when he ends his broadcast later on. He's just like, that was my best show.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into, and then the Entourage, him in the Entourage. Oh my God, just perfect. Like, it's actually perfect. So then we get this really crazy cameo of this Gimme the Cash guy. So this guy, it's like there's little peephole out of Corbin's his apartment. So this guy had this like a picture on his head of what the outside of his apartment looks like. So the guy is just waiting there with a gun. And then when Corbin opens the door, he comes out with the gun. He's like, "Give me the cash."
Yeah, and it's like the weirdest looking. I bet the prop guys had so much fun making these guns, because that gun has got like two, like, ammo
cartridges or whatever. Yeah.
Thank you. And it has like this weird spike thing at the end of it, and it just looks. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, but I love it.
It looks like a Nerf gun, basically, with a real gun.
Nerf guns. Yeah, like, oh my God, 90s Nerf guns were the shit, but like
they were fun. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. He's just like totally tweaking out and trying to.
Yeah. He's just so tweaked out, dude. Give me the cash.
Give me the cash. And I'm like,
yeah, like what? And then Corbin kind of tricks him. He's like, "Oh, well, you didn't arm it, right?" He's like, "Oh," and then he actually disarms it. And then Corbin takes his gun.
And then like this rack comes down. You can tell this is not their first encounter that they've had with each other. And he just takes it and puts it in a rack. And he's got like all of these crazy looking guns and shit.
Yeah. It's totally ridiculous.
He's like, "Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll do this again tomorrow."
Yeah. And then he goes to work. And he just goes to work. And he's so, we got flying cars in this future, which is cool. He's a cab driver. And I love, this is like kind of perfect, very New York. Like, he literally almost gets into an accident backing out of his driveway.
Yep. He almost gets like just totally sideswiped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he has, they say he has like 3 points on his license or something like that. So
and before he loses it.
Yeah, before they revoke his license. So then we go back to Cornelius, and he's explained to the president, like, the Mandashiwan, they have this weapon that can destroy the great evil. And so we have to get into contact with them, and then I can bring the priests to the temple, and we can activate the weapon. And so then they're like, "Okay, let's let them into Federation airspace." They're like, "Okay," they're coming in, and then their ship gets blown up by these other aliens. What do they call these aliens? They're the Mangalores. So the Mangalores blow up their ship. And so we're like, "Ooh, we're kind of screwed."
Not good.
Not good, yeah. Cornelius is like super distraught. He's like, "Oh shit, it's over. I don't know what we're gonna do. We're doomed." And because no one takes it as seriously as he does. Like, he doesn't, like, he's the only one who understands, like, this is actually, apocalyptic kind of stuff,
Yeah, like, we can't solve this with guns. We need something else.
Yeah, we need something way more powerful than a gun. So and then they say there's one survivor at the crash site, and it's like the hand of one of the Mandashiwan, which I guess was the actual fifth element. Like, was, you know, basically she or it looked like them, the ones we saw at the very beginning of the movie with the really big body and the tiny head. So they take the hand to this lab in New York, and then they bring the fifth element to life through the cells of that thing in the hand. And so they bring Lilu to life using this machine. Yeah, so what do you think of the scene where they like kind of bring her back and build her?
I liked it. It was cool. You know, seeing like everything from like the muscle to the tissue and everything like that, you know, forming. I was confused as to why she looked human though. I wasn't entirely sure why she had to look human. I mean, probably because a big clunky alien looking thing doesn't look all that heroic. But that was the only thing I was really confused by about that. Was, like, I don't mind that she looks human. I mean, that's fine. Is that what they? Because obviously these are suits. So.
Oh, sure.
What do they look like underneath all of that? Because you see bone and stuff like that with the hand, and you see some like maybe some muscle and tissue and stuff like that, but it's also been blown up a little bit and taken away from the rest of its body. But like, yeah, I wasn't sure why she looked human, except to cast Milla Jovovich. So
yeah. I think you definitely, because there's one way you could take it, right, which is that it's sort of they're us, I guess is the explanation. Basically, is that those things underneath the suit look like humans or look humanoid.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they're humanoid looking, and that these are probably just like suits that they have to wear when they're traveling through space, because they don't really mention a home world. I don't think
they don't.
Unless they're just kind of like nomads. They don't really have a home anymore. They just kind of fly around making sure that the stones are protected. But yeah, I'm assuming there's some kind of humanoid looking being underneath all of the clunky armor and stuff.
Yeah, I think the real answer, to be totally honest, is like they want to just have Milla Jovovich and not some big alien thing. So,
oh yeah, I'm sure that was probably just the only reason.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was for shallow reasons only.
Yeah, there is.
So because if from what I've read, Luc Besson's had been writing this since he was like 16. So he's a 16-year-old kid and he's imagining her being hot. Like, I think that's just pretty much what it is, which is fine.
I mean, Luc Besson too. Like he's kind of gotten into a lot of trouble, but like basically he just like he tries to spend half his life with models, and you can kind of. Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the woman he was dating at the time the one who was the diva? I think he was dating her at the time or something.
I don't know, because I mean he ended up like they got married. Him and Milla Jovovich got married.
Oh really?
For like a minute. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, for like a minute. Okay.
Yeah, for like they were married for like 9 months or something. And then she was like, I'm out.
Yeah, there's some weird directors out there who just fixate on one actress. Like, who was it with Jennifer Lawrence?
Oh, the guy who did like the Hunger Games, right?
No, he was okay. He directed Mother or something like that with her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue who it is, but Aronofsky?
Yeah, Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah, he was like obsessed with her for a while. And it's just like, I mean, they fixate on women. They become their muse, and it's not always good.
Yeah.
Orson Welles, like he was notorious for fixating on like one woman. Like,
yeah. So anyway, so it's just like we're just gonna make it a super attractive woman, which is cool.
Which is fine.
It's pretty cool.
She did good. It's not like she did a bad job. It's not like she was there just to be hot. You know, Lilu actually is a very sensitive, vulnerable, badass individual, regardless of her being hot. So it's just, at least she was also good in it. I'm glad she was good in the movie, besides just being a piece of ass, basically. Which again, the '90s was notorious for doing to women.
Yeah. And I mean, this really blew her up. this movie. Totally blew her up and she's, man, I mean, I'm telling you, she is pretty incredible. She looks great to this day. I mean, and it's kind of like I saw the new Hellboy movie. Not a great movie, but she like, man, she looks great for her. I think she's like 50.
Damn, really?
I believe so.
Well, she had a whole career modeling before she became an actress anyway, so that makes sense. No, good for her. And she's always been doing the Resident Evil movies, which I'm not a fan of Resident Evil, but like she's always been popular with those movies and in the action movie sphere. So,
yeah.
I mean, maybe she got a little typecast, but I mean, as long as she delivers and it does a good job, I mean, I don't really care.
Yeah, I feel like she's kind of typecast herself. I mean, because, you know, there are some, I remember, I forget what her name is, but she's like in the Fast and Furious, and she's like, yeah, I want to be the badass Latina. Like that's typecast me as that.
Good for her.
Because at least, you know,
yeah.
if you have a type, you'll get in a movie. And so especially when it's like action movies and stuff where there's a big demand for that, and that kind of crosses over. It keeps you getting work and keeps you, you know, getting paid. So
and relevant. So
yeah, and relevant.
And that's important.
Yeah. So we get this scene where Lilo comes to life. It's really cool, and then, you know, this will become very iconic outfit where the white straps. So then she comes to life and she's like speaking some language. They have no idea what she's saying at all. Never heard this language. And then she, like, the military guy's like, well, you got to learn, you know, you got to work on your communication skills. And she just like punches him, takes his thing, breaks out.
Yeah, he walks there after taking nude pictures of her. He's like, I need some pictures, you know, for the report. It's just like, really, dude?
Yeah, dude, you're going to get punched in the face.
Good. I'm glad she punched him.
And then she runs through a wall that was made of tinfoil. Not the best. Not the best. Not the best set ever, but hey, you know, it is what it is.
They were working with what they got.
Yeah. So then the cops come to track her down. So like you were talking about, like there's a lot of bulky stuff in this future.
Yeah, like the cops were wearing, like this goon squad cops were just wearing all this big, like, everyone's sweaty. Everyone's unkempt.
They're super sweaty.
Like all of the cops look like they just rolled out of a dumpster.
Yeah.
Which, hey, that's fine. But like, yeah, no one's shaven. No one's like, I mean, the military guys look a little more well put together, but like the cops of New York City are absolutely disgusting, repugnant looking people. Like when they're at that drive-through, the McDonald's drive-through.
Oh, that one guy is just like, they straight out of central casting, just like, find me a New York cop with 5 o'clock shadow or whatever, and like just looks really like nasty.
I want the audience to be able to smell his BO and clunky suits, and it's just so gross. But the women are wearing at the McDonald's drive-through. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like I did kind of like that because that's fun or whatever. Yeah. Because like in reality, like the future is going to be a robot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And most of the women who interact with them do seem a little like Barbie, a little robotic. But yeah, like even their costumes were like had that very like almost squareness to them too, and it just I don't know, I really liked it.
Yeah, I thought the uniforms were really cool. Like again, like this future is, you know, I don't know what the inspiration was, but it's some kind of art form that's very cool and different. Because I feel like I've never seen anything really like this. The thing that comes to my mind, and this is bad, was like the freaking Super Mario Brothers movie, which I don't even know. I feel like it maybe came out before this, but you know, with the same kind of like really weird kind of suits and stuff, animatronics.
And the dimensions. Pardon me. The dimensions are really weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it's very similar to the aesthetic of Farscape, which is a little bit more muted. There's not a lot of there's some bright colors, but it's generally people who have bright colors when they're an alien or something. But that bulkiness, that chunky thing, where all of like, it's not like a sleek small device that they use in Star Trek or something like that. Like their communicator is something giant or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if there was an alien ship in the Fifth Element universe that was also like a living being, like in Farscape, I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah. So then we get this really cool, like this whole thing with Lilu. So she like kind of breaks out basically, and so there's like this little circular tunnel, and she comes out of it. Which is a really cool shot of her like standing in the tunnel, and the cops are like, "Hey, you need to come back. Do it right now, or we're gonna be forced to like take you by force." And it's like, "Do you understand me?" And then she just walks away.
Like, no, I don't really care.
Yeah, she doesn't care. She does not care at all about these silly humans. And he's like, "Oh, she doesn't understand me." So she, so she's like out. Like she's out on the corner of this building, and it's like, you know, again, they've built stuff way up into the sky, and it's a pretty cool. So what do you think about like the way they depict this future New York? This is like the first time we really get to see it.
I liked it. I didn't mind it. I still think flying cars are a bad idea. I will always think flying cars are a bad idea. But I think it's interesting how giant like the skyscrapers are now. There's really no foot traffic at all. There can't be. If you're on the very bottom, like you probably don't want to be there. But no, I thought it was interesting. I mean, there's only one means of transportation, and that explains why there's so much traffic everywhere. Like everywhere you look, there's no like lull in the traffic. Also, I didn't really see any stoplights either, which I thought was interesting. So their transportation grid must be very intricate.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I thought it was neat. I liked how there was a giant elevator on the outside of a building, or it looked more like a bus actually, which again would make sense. That people aren't really leaving their homes. The apartments are also way more compacted and small. I'm sure people who have more money or whatever form of currency that they use probably have more luxurious accommodations or whatever. But I feel like the average person like Corbin just has like this tiny little room with all of his stuff that just folds out, which I also really liked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But no, it was an interesting take on like the city. But again, I just love how there's literally just trash everywhere. Like you go on the subway and there's just piles of trash.
Yeah. It's cool. I really liked because it feels like a lot of people kind of have said because you know again he's from Paris, Besson, and so it has this kind of like European influence too, to the way that this version of New York feels. But yeah, so then Lilo gets cornered by the police, so she decides to just jump off. She just jumps.
Just jumps off the ledge.
Yeah, which is really cool. Seeing her jump. So she jumps, and hey, guess what happens? She falls into Corbin's cab.
Yep.
She crashes through, and he's like, "Oh, what's going on?" And it's love at first sight, of course, for him. And she tries to explain what happened to her. She's like speaking again in a foreign language. Has no idea what she's saying. She says, "Big bada boom." It's like, oh yeah, I understand that.
yeah, I understand what that means. I like their first interaction with each other because like he's not pissed at her for falling through his cab. He's just kind of in awe of like, she lived first of all. But I think he's also in awe of the fact there's a half-naked chick in the back of his cab. But also there's something like I read on IMDb that Bruce Willis didn't know what she was going to say. So when she starts speaking the language, he's just kind of like listening and staring at her, which I thought was a really nice, genuine reaction to get from him. But he's not mad. He's totally just like, she's kind of cool.
Yeah. I think he plays up the love at first sight thing pretty well because like that's really what it's about. Like he's like, boom. He's like, whoa, my God, I'm in love with this person. Yeah. So he's in love and he's very confused, but also, you know, he becomes a little kind of conflicted or whatever because then the cops come and they're like, okay, you have to hand her over. And you know, he's like, oh, well, I can't afford to lose my license. And so then the cops, you know, they're like, you need to comply, blah blah blah. And so then she does like this This is really funny. So she sees this little thing that says "Please help," and she's like, "Please help!" Like begging for her.
It's just like, oh, come on, man! You're really gonna turn her over? She's crying and saying, "Please help," and he's just like, "God damn it!"
Yeah, he's like, oh God, I have to help. And the other thing too is you can tell he's the anti-authoritarian type, right? He's not one to just like do what authority tells him to do.
Yeah.
He does the opposite. And we see that a lot in the movie. His superiors as well. He doesn't do what they want him to do. And so then he's like, okay, I'm gonna help her. He just like floors the gas, F the cops, basically, and then he's off, and then we get this really cool car chase scene. Yeah, this car chase scene is really fun. And then, we get this product placement with McDonald's, which I thought was kind of interesting.
With our sweaty cops.
Super sweaty. That one guy, the guy in the driver's seat, is like one of the sweatiest.
They just don't represent cops at all very well in this movie, which I think is funny. They're bumbling idiots.
They are, basically. There's a few people that are worse than the cops, I'd say, but the cops are not seen. They're like second lowest on the hierarchy here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we also get this like the soundtrack on this chase scene is really good. That song, it's like this Arabic like Rastafarian music. Like it's really...
I loved the soundtrack. I really enjoyed the soundtrack. And like I said, this movie has its own sci-fi flavor, and it's not for everyone, but I don't know how you can enjoy it. Like,
yeah, it's like this scene is just like it's everything that this movie's about.
Yeah, like you said, it has like that European style brought to it with like some American action movie elements coupled with this crazy soundtrack that should not fit. None of those things should go together, but somehow they do. And plus, you have a chosen one storyline through all of that too. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all of it. You have all of those elements just jammed into one movie, and it just creates this beautiful cocktail of flavors. And it's like, I want more of that because I can't taste anything physically, so I need to watch it visually.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super fun. Yeah, and this, there's just so much fun stuff. Like he's driving, he's flying away, and he's like, oh yeah, don't worry. Like if they don't chase you after 1 mile, they don't chase you. Comes around the corner and then they get blasted.
There's just 8 of them there.
Yeah,
which is great. Yeah. Another 90s movie trope of like a car driving by and getting shot a whole bunch of times and nobody gets hurt.
Yes, that is a big 90s trope. It's like the car is totally, or like. The car does get shot, and then all the important people don't die, and exactly. the one expendable guy does. Like they kind of do that in there's what's that movie? Heat kind of does this where like they randomly pick up this guy to be their driver on Getaway Driver.
Yep.
And then they get into this fucking shootout, and then the driver dies. Everyone else lives and gets out of the car and runs.
Oh yeah. We immediately knew that guy was expendable.
Yeah.
Ex-con, trying to turn his life around. Needs the money.
Hates his boss. His boss is a dick.
Hates his boss. His boss is a dick. Oh, and you know what? You're going to be in the safest place. You're not going to actually be in the building. You're going to be driving the car, and that's it. You're the first one to go.
First one to die. Yeah. Pretty brutal. But yeah, so yeah, this movie. So the car gets shot up. Him and Lilu, I think. See, the other thing too is like this movie is before. What's really interesting about this movie? There's no sequel to this movie, even though I mean you could really see how today this thing is like a franchise.
Oh, absolutely! This is like a mini series on Amazon or Netflix or something that would go for maybe like 7 seasons. Like, there's such a huge universe.
There is so much that is unexplored in this movie about everything. But it makes you think about so much. What are the other alien races in this Federation? Just stuff about Lilu and her like, what does she remember? Like, I don't know. There's just so much there. There's so much there, and it just gets left. It's for us to think about,
One of the things I found interesting too is when we first meet Cornelius, he's with a representation of other religions. You see like a bishop sitting behind him. You see like maybe a Buddhist or something like that. He is one of many representatives of various religions in this new normal, basically, of this Federation alliance or whatever. And I thought that was really neat that there's still, because again, that's something that The Expanse does very well, is that they're always incorporating different religious factions within their space travel, essentially. And really who has more to gain or who has more to lose within it. So I thought that was really interesting that they paid representation to like, yeah, there's still religion even 300 years or 1,000 years into the future when we have space travel.
Yeah. There was like 4 or 5 different. It was like there was like a Jewish guy, there was like probably like a Christian, and then like you said, like a Buddhist, and then Cornelius, which is part of whatever they call their religion. I'm not sure.
Yeah, which is something I had questions about too. Like, do they worship the aliens, or do they just worship the fifth element? Or like, what is really going on? Because clearly there's more than one of Cornelius. Like, he has a protege that he's training. So I had questions about that, which is something that if you had a sequel or a show about, you could definitely expand more on whatever their religion is, because clearly it's not in the shadows, because he's speaking to the president of the universe.
Yes. It's not like the Mummy, where it's like the Magi are, the secret society.
Exactly. Like it's not like that. So is it more like in Harry Potter, how the Minister of Magic visits every new prime minister that comes along? Like, I think it's interesting that they're not like a secret. They're not like the Illuminati or some shit like that.
Yes.
They're out and about. They're known. People know who they are. They're obviously a respected religion if they're with Catholicism, Judaism, Buddhism, and Christianity.
Yeah, totally. I suspect that it's so they feel, I don't know if there's totally a equivalent. I mean, there's some, it's called a cult, but like for a long time, so like take Hercules, for example. There were people who they called it a cult of Hercules, but they would do things to uphold his legacy, basically.
Yeah, or like the cult of Hecate and stuff like that, or like Hera, or all the other like ancient like Roman or Greek gods and stuff like that.
I feel like that's what their anyone who follows that, their job is to uphold the truths of what they believe, and it's just about bringing it forward, because they believe and in this, they rightly believe that at some point their part of the bargain is going to be necessary to defeat the great evil, and so there has to be a human priest or human connection to basically to do this thing to stop the great evil. And I feel like that's basically what, because like this whole thing, like the human part started, I guess basically the aliens came to Earth and they were like, stop the first great evil. They stopped it. And so then a bunch of people became part of the cult or whatever, and they were like, okay, Mandashua, tell us what to do, because we need to not have the Earth or whatever, or the universe be destroyed. So then the Mandashua said, okay, we're gonna leave the fifth element and the stones on Earth, and then you guys protect the temple. That's all you need to do. Make sure no one does anything to it. So that was their first mission. And then what we saw at the very beginning of the movie is, okay, the Mandashua came back. They said the stones are they're not safe on Earth, but we still need you to hold the key to this temple, because in 300 years, when the evil returns, we will return, and you need to help us defeat it. So I basically think that's their job, and it keeps going. What's kind of implied in this is that it's a never-ending cycle of good fighting evil, pretty much.
Gotcha.
So yeah, they're part of their religion is always doing their part to make sure the great evil is defeated, pretty much. But there's a lot of waiting, right? Because like between Cornelius and the first guy, like it was hundreds of years.
Exactly. There's a lot of waiting in between.
Yeah. All right, cool. So this and what's really cool, so again, about this chase scene is like the car gets shot and then they dive all the way down to like the very bottom, and so the bottom is like what do they call it? He calls it like the smoke or
The fog, I think.
The fog, yeah.
It's just pollution, basically, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
It's just a whole bunch of pollution and trash, and you don't want to be down there. Probably mutants are down there, too, if I had to guess.
Yeah, the cockroaches, the things that can survive in anything. So they go down into there, and then, the cops can't find them, so they get away. And so Lilu tells them, take me to Cornelius. So they go to Cornelius. And he thinks it's like hitching a wedding or something. He's like,
weddings at the 7th floor or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he's like, no, like she told me to come find you. And she has this tattoo, and so she has like the 4 elements tattooed on her wrist. And Cornelius, he passes out, but basically he's like, she's the supreme being of the universe. And they all thought it was gonna be a man. Like, oh, he's a she. I didn't know.
They're like, whoa. There's this ongoing theme too of everyone turning around whenever she gets naked. And like, do you want coffee? Yep, I'll take coffee now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's someone. They kind of basically said it's like a trope. I don't know if I'm sure it's existed before this, but basically it's like the person who's born yesterday, but they're like super beautiful, like they're really attractive. Like I'm sure it's existed in another thing. That feels like it feels very fairy tale, actually.
Yeah, it does feel like a very fairy tale like thing, or a very a certain type of because there's different kinds of chosen one stories. You know what I mean? There's like the Luke Skywalker type, and then there's this kind, where she's born yesterday, but she's very intelligent but naive, very naive in some ways. Super badass, but also incredibly vulnerable because she doesn't know anything about who she's protecting. She just knows she's supposed to. And, Vision in the MCU is very similar. He was like, yeah, well, I was born yesterday, because when Ultron tells him that he's very naive.
He literally says that to Ultron before he kills him. Yeah,
he's
I
like,
love
well,
that.
I was born yesterday, so.
Yeah.
It's a very, I'm trying to think of other examples at the moment, but like, I do think that is a trope of a beautiful, supreme being of whatever kind, whether it's man or woman, that's born yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then we get this thing. So Lila's like passed out or whatever, and then Corbin kisses her. And she pulls a fucking gun on him. She pulls a gun.
And that's another fairy tale element. He's like, I think he's very much a romantic at heart, because he's like, oh, maybe like the kiss of life or whatever.
It's like Sleeping Beauty, right? Kind of
like Sleeping Beauty or Snow White or something like that. And she's like, yeah, no.
She's like, no. So yeah, and then there's some more stuff, but basically Cornelius and her, and they, it's like she found him, and he's going to help her, who's the 5th element, do the thing, stop the universe from being destroyed. And then they say goodbye to Corbin. But then he's like, oh, she said this thing to me. What does it mean? Never without my permission.
And he's like, that makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So they send him off.
I also like that Cornelius is kind of dressed like an Obi-Wan Kenobi character. He's got the big brown robe. He even has like the goatee. He looks like Obi-Wan.
Yeah, they're, it's so hard to get out of, again, either Star Trek or Star Wars, and this kind of puts the two of them together in some ways. But also,
it's like that wizard look. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like a wizard look.
I mean, they call it, like in Star Wars, the first movie, they call him a wizard. Like,
like you're space wizards. That's what you are.
Yeah, yeah, for real. I mean, pretty much they were space wizards, right? Okay, so then Lilu was like consuming stuff on the internet, basically. She's just like trolling forums to learn everything. And we get this thing with Zorg. So this is like the first time we see Zorg. Zorg is like, and it's played by what's his name?
Gary Oldman.
Gary freaking Oldman. He's so fun in this.
He's amazing. He is such a phenomenal actor. Just when you think he's done being amazing and maybe he's peaked or something like that. It's like, no. I don't know, this came out in like 97 or something like that, but still, like.
Yeah. And this is such a kind of, it could be such a throwaway part, but he's just really good in it.
Oh, I loved the false teeth. The false teeth were what really brought that character to life. It's so interesting how the tiniest thing to add to a character can make it like come full circle. Because he kind of has a lisp, and he has a southern drawl or whatever, and it's so weird. He's so good.
And the hair and like, what the hell was that thing, that plastic thing on his head? What the hell is that?
I have no idea what that was for or what its purpose was meant to be, but it was great.
Yeah. So we get this thing. So the first time we see him, and he's like his underlings like, oh, so we're losing money, so we need to fire 500,000 people from, including the cab company, which Corbin works for. So Corbin works for Zorg, and he's like, fire 1 million people.
Totally hard.
And it's so funny too, because again, this could be so bad. This could just be the dumbest. Like, this is literally like the whole purpose of the scene is to show that this guy's evil in the quickest way possible.
And because he has that southern drawl, that when he walks, his boots click like he has spurs on them. But I never seen spurs, so he's almost got like a cowboy thing going. And he doesn't look like a cowboy. Like, this is a character that looks like the complete opposite of any cowboy motif you have ever seen. This is not the Marlboro Man. Like, and he walks like he's got spurs on his boots, but he also walks like he has a limp too.
I think what it is he has a limp, and then so like one leg is shorter than the other, so he has that little spur on it, so that it's more even. But then he's like clink, clink, clink.
Like, every time he walks, he's just clicking. And I love it.
But yeah, he's like the guy, and then the guy's like, "Oh, but sir, we only need to fire 500,000," and he just like looks at him. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll let go 1 million people. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so Zorg is having this meeting with the Mangalords. So they stole the stones to give to Zorg, and so Zorg's like, "Okay, I'll give you a bunch of guns. You give me the stones, everyone's happy." But then Lilu's like, yeah, but the stones, they got swapped because we don't trust humanity yet. So we just did it as a precaution. And she does this funny thing like, oh, they got like switched or whatever. And so then, we get this whole thing with these guns, which are kind of, basically they do everything. It's got bullets, it's got a missile, it's got a heat-seeking missile, it's got fire, it's got ice, it's got
a net.
It's got a net, it's got a bolus.
The most ridiculous thing.
It's
net on it. And he's doing it completely serious too.
Yeah,
like Gary Oldman's doing, like, this is the greatest thing. Like, this is the greatest piece of technology you will ever own. And it's just great how much he sells it.
Yeah. It's really fun. It's really fun. So then the stones got swapped. Zorg opens the thing. There's no stones in it. And he's like, what the fuck? And then the Mangalores are like, so basically he's like, okay, deal's done. No stones, no guns. Bye-bye. And then the Mangalores are like, no. We risked our lives to get you whatever. You just told us to get this thing. We got it for you. So you owe us. And he's like, okay, I'll give you 1 case of guns and then I'm out. So then I guess the one thing Zorg didn't tell them is like, don't press the red button. And one of them, of course, is like looking at it and he's like, and he presses the red button and hits a bomb and it blows up. So it blows a bunch of them up.
I love that he's like, a real killer would have asked about the red button.
Yeah.
Why?
So, yeah, that was kind of a random. That was a very random. I think the whole point of that scene was like, okay, we have to have him say something when this explosion happens behind him.
Exactly.
Right. When he's like smoking and there's like an explosion. It's pretty badass, but I feel really bad too for his, like, the guy is called the right hand. His guy that he makes do all this stuff. Like, this guy, like, dude, I don't know how he got that job, but that.
It's not a good job.
It's so bad. It is so bad. Like, he just makes this guy do all this terrible stuff, and he's just like, he's never, you know, I mean, Zorg is a dick, but he just never, I don't know, he just never like totally takes for granted like this dude actually succeeds in doing some pretty high level espionage and stuff that we'll see later in this movie. But he's like, Zorg's like, no, it's not good enough. You're dead. So Zorg tells his henchmen to go bring Cornelius. So basically this is Zorg like saying why he wants to literally blow up the Earth and like help this cosmic horror entity destroy the human race.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much his plan is like, oh yeah, it's gonna blow up the Earth, but then, you know, someone's got to clean up the destruction, and that'll be me, and I'll profit from it. Okay.
It'll make jobs.
Okay. All right. And then Zorg chokes on a cherry.
I love how he gives like this great speech or whatever about how like about chaos and everything, like chaos creates, you know, whatever. And then he chokes on a freaking cherry, and he's just like, all this stuff comes flying out of his desk, and like a deck of cards, like food, this, that, and the other thing. This box opens, and there's a creature inside of it who's just staring at him.
It's like his pet. I don't know what the hell that thing was.
I think it was probably some kind of pet, but like they were just staring at each other, like what the hell is going on?
Oh, the pet starts laughing. It's like, oh, you're gonna die? Yes.
It's like, yeah, you keep me in a box. I'm glad you're choking to death. And
yeah.
Like, Cornelius,
you want me to help you?
Yeah, and Cornelius comes up behind him and is like, oh, do you need help? Are you choking? Are you okay?
Yeah, like, oh, you're really kind of struggling. Is your little pet guy, your little pet tiny elephant thing, gonna help? He's not gonna help you?
Oh, no. You're helpless.
Turns out, yeah, you're helpless. Turns out being evil really doesn't pay.
No. And he just slaps him on the back.
Yeah, he helps him out. And he's like, I'll spare your life for now, for saving mine. Sends him away. Yeah, I thought that was funny. But yeah, his whole thing is like, he wants to do it because, yeah, I mean, basically destroy the world and then profit from it. Okay, so then we get this other scene. So I maybe didn't mention it before, but basically, Lilu tells Cornelius, like, oh, the stones are on Floss in Paradise. And, you know, we had heard about Floss in Paradise in the beginning with Ruby Rod. But, you know, it's a very exclusive kind of thing, basically, it seems like. It's like for super rich people. Mm-hmm. So they kind of run into this problem, like they can't actually get there, which will come up later. So then we see the great evil is like eating every satellite in the universe, pretty much. And they're like, why is he doing that? It's like, maybe he's trying to make a phone call.
We don't know.
Yeah. Is this... yeah. So then the great evil calls Zorg. And it's like Mr. Shadow. Mr. Shadow. It's like I don't want to receive any phone calls right now. It's like, okay, I know you said you don't want to receive any phone calls unless it's Mr. Shadow, and it's Mr. Shadow. And so they're talking, right? So and it's like, you know, it's like this very intimidating. It's like, did you bring the stones to me? I thought that was really funny. Yeah, and then again, he starts bleeding. The brown pus stuff comes out of his head. So and it just shows you like how truly powerful this whatever this thing is. Like even a guy like him is just like on his knees at this thing.
And how far reaching the evil is too. Like I'm assuming thousands of light years away, and he's just hearing its voice is causing this guy to drink brown goo.
Exactly. Yeah, that's enough to like totally destroy him. And so basically, yeah. And then the great was like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm coming soon. I'll be with you soon." And then he just hangs up the phone. It's like, ooh, that's really ominous.
Got a really intimidating boss.
Yeah. So one other thing too. So like, so like Zorg has to get these stones because like otherwise the great evil is going to kill him.
Yeah, the great evil was flexing hardcore.
Yeah, the great evil. He was flexing. So basically, somehow he got into contact with the great evil, and was like, I will bring you the stones if you spare me when you destroy the planet. He's like, okay. But you have to do your end of the bargain. Otherwise, I'm going to consume you, silly human. That's what happens when you make a deal with, like, something even worse than the devil. Yeah. So then Zorg, like, told his homie, his right, like, the guy's name literally is the right hand. Find me the stones. You have 1 hour. He literally said,
that's like so impossible. You can't do that in 1 hour.
Like, he literally said, you have 1 hour. So this guy, what he does is he rigs a freaking cockroach with a
like an antenna.
An antenna and a transmitter. And so he's like controlling it. And then he got the cockroach into the president's office. And he's like hearing the conversation, and they're like, okay, the stones are with Diva Pava Laguna. We're gonna do a covert mission to acquire them. And we'll send our best person, who's gonna be Corbin. And then it's this funny thing, like the president sees the cockroach and he just crushes it with his boot.
He blows out this guy's eardrums in the process.
I feel so bad for this guy. Like because like it's like one of those where you get into a job and you just like you can't quit. Where they're like, oh, but we really need you. We really need you to do this thing. And then for him, it was like probably some intimidation and also like, I need you to go steal this information from me. I need you to do this. And it's just get deeper and deeper. And then you're just like totally screwed.
Yeah, I feel pretty bad for the right hand. Like he's trying really hard. Like he thought of putting a freaking antenna and like transmitter on a cockroach, and he was able to do it. Like he doesn't look like the most technical savvy guy, so I give him credit for that.
Yeah. So then we got Corbin again. So he gets a letter in the mail or whatever, and he's like eating lunch with this Asian guy, very stereotypical Asian guy.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my god. Oh my god. This was like the most stereotypical Asian guy of all time.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Like, oh my, wow. I mean, it's just reel off every Asian, like, Chinese stereotype you could think about, Yeah,
that happened.
Yeah, that happened. But yeah, so he's just, just saying all this stuff. They're having lunch, and then he's like, oh, you should read this letter. It could be good. And he's like, no, the last time I got news, it was my wife divorced me, and she left with my lawyer, basically. And then he's like, okay, I'll read the letter for you. And he reads the letter. It's like, oh, you're fired.
So more bad news.
More bad news. But they have like a wager. It's like, oh, if it's bad news, I'll give you free lunch. And he's like, Corbin's like, well, at least I got free lunch. It's like, oh yeah, good. Yeah, again, more. It's like funny, but it's so stereotypical.
It's
like
so bad, yeah. And then he flies away on a boat.
Like one of these like 1800s Chinese barges that's somehow turned into a flying ship.
He did it. And he just flies around giving people lunch.
Yeah. Okay, that was a thing. So then Corbin gets a call from his mom, and the mom character is pretty fun.
I know, I love the mom character. I know some people who are like this in real life.
Like,
you never call me. What do you want me to just drop dead? Maybe I should.
I feel like the mom. I feel like the mom in this is like it's like Brenda Lee in the future.
Yeah.
Like literally Brenda Lee in the future.
Oh, you
like,
can't pick up the phone and call your mother? Oh, don't tell me you're busy. I know you're not busy. Did you lose your job again?
Oh my god.
Yeah. Like the guilt tripping is astounding. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Just nothing but a guilt trip. Nothing but yeah. And so then because she's mad because he won the Floss in Paradise thing. And
he has no idea what's going on. He doesn't care.
He's like, what do you mean I won? I didn't win it because they would have told me. And then he gets something in the mail immediately.
Who passes? What, are you not going to take your mother? I don't deserve it. I only carried you for 9 months. Plus.
Yeah.
I'm so glad my mom isn't like this.
Oh my god. So, yeah. So, okay, and then the military shows up. and he's like, oh shit, like something's afoot. So basically they say, oh yeah, so we wanted you to do this mission. He's like, I've retired. It's like, well, we think you're the only guy who's like got the skills, and they like have this long list of like skills required for this mission or whatever. And he's a major, by the way, Corbin. And so then they were like, he opens the letter. He's like, oh, look, you won this contest to go to Floss in Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, you guys rigged it. He's like, yeah, the oldest tricks are the best tricks. So then Lilu shows up. And it's Lilu and, he doesn't see Cornelius. It feels like in this world, when someone's knocking on your door, your apartment door, you kind of got to be a little cautious.
Yeah, it's almost
right?
Because I almost feel like people don't communicate this way. They don't communicate in person so much anymore. And so when someone does show up at your door, it's almost like, uh-oh, this is serious, which is very like true nowadays, I feel like, with how we deal with like our issues on social media, or how we deal with relationships on social media and stuff like that. So if it's in person, this is serious.
Oh yeah, by the way, another anachronism to talk about is like the cell phones are super tiny. They're like, this was back when we were trying to make cell phones as small as possible, until we figured out, oh wait, the phone is just going to become a computer, so the screen need to get bigger. But I thought that's funny. He's got this really tiny like cell phone when he's talking to his mom. So Lilu shows up, but then Cornelius is there, and he's like, "Oh, we got to steal your thing. I'm sorry, ish." Seems like the priests in this religion, they'll go there, right?
Oh yeah, they'll go there. He whacks him over the head with like some kind of metal or some kind of statue, and just takes his shit and leaves.
Yeah. So, and this scene's really interesting because there's like 4 things going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So everyone knows that Corbin won the contest, and basically there's like 4 different people trying to get Corbin, pretty much, so that they can take his place and go to Floss in Paradise. So the military wants him to do the mission. Cornelius wants to take the ticket so that he can go and do the mission and get the stones. The cops were told by the right hand that Cornelius had like a bomb or something like that. Or I'm sorry, that Corbin had like a bomb. And so his plan was, say that Corbin has a bomb, the cops take out Corbin, I assume Corbin's identity. So then the cops are after him. And then the Mangalores are after Corbin because they want to get back at Zorg. So it's like 5 different things going on.
Yeah, it's definitely like a Marx Brothers gag where there's 10 different things going on at once, and it's chaos. And at any moment, the protagonist is going to be found out. So he shoves the military guys in his refrigerator, basically, and shoves them into a wall. He stuffs Cornelius into the bed that folds into the wall, and he puts Lilu in the shower that goes up into the ceiling. And he frames some other guy, and it makes that guy assume his identity. So the right hand thinks that he's off the hook. So the cops let him off the hook because they think they've got the right guy. And the Mangalore just don't know. They just keep going on with whatever's happening.
So then the Mangalores take out the cops, and they take the guy who the cops think was Corbin, but it's not. And so they are going identity. It's like, what?
It really is like one of those old Marx Brothers gags and stuff like that. And at any moment you're afraid, he's going to be found out. What's happening?
Yeah. I really love that too. I used to have this shirt. I am a meat popsicle was the shirt. That's what he says so he puts his hands on the thing. He looks away so they can't see him. He's like, I think they say, are you Corbin Dallas or some shit like that?
Yeah.
I forget, they say something like that. And he's like, oh, negative, I'm a meat popsicle. And then the other guy, so this other guy he's like shaving with a knife. He's a real edgy guy. Let's put it that way. And he says, smoke you! Like, they couldn't say the other thing to keep it PG-13. And then Corbin's like, wrong answer, buddy. And they take him out. Yep. Yeah, so this whole charade is really funny. And then it ends with, he lets out Lilu, and she's like, she got again another.
She got all wet. Oh my god.
Another hot girl troll. Oh no, you got all wet. Oh, let me help you. I'm so sorry.
Warm you up and have this intimate moment that was totally unnecessary.
Oh my god, it's so funny. Yeah. So that happens, and then again, like you said, she just like gets naked, doesn't even think about it, and then Cornelius and Corbin, they're like, oh, let's not look at her. And then like you said, Cornelius takes a medal, knocks him out, steals the ticket. Corbin accepts the mission, and then boom, we're off. So then we get into the other part of this like you said, this Marx Brothers, everyone's impersonating everyone kind of thing.
Oh yeah, the gag keeps going. It doesn't stop there.
Yes.
It's an ongoing gag for like 30 minutes.
So Cornelius gets his protege David to impersonate Corbin. And so him and Lulu were going to go off on the planet.
And that goes off like a fart in church because this kid does not have any game and cannot keep it cool.
Well, this guy, they really kind of we haven't talked much about him, but he is like, I mean, if you snap your fingers, this dude jumps.
For sure.
I mean, he is scared of everything. Like, he is scared of everything. That's his one character type, trope, or whatever, basically. And we saw it a bunch, like in the first time that they meet Cornelius, David, he's there. He's like sewing something. He's like sewing a. He's like.
He's just sewing something.
Yeah.
We don't know what he does.
I think he's like sewing one of those robes or whatever that they wear.
Probably. He might be sewing his own for when he ascends to a higher, rank or something.
Yeah.
On my robe.
Yeah. And so he's in there sewing, and then Cornelius bursts in. He's like, "Oh my god!" And so he's really fleety, and he's really gets scared. And Corbin basically shows up and is like, "Get the fuck out of here."
I got this. And he just goes. He just wanders off. It's like,
he runs away.
I'm not suited for this.
He runs away. And then we get the multi-pass stuff.
Yep.
And Lulu's like, a multi-pass. Like, that's like the newest word she's learned. And I just love like the way that he like the whole thing with the two of them. It's so funny. Like the way they framed it, it's like one of those things where you just like throw two people, like a couple together or something. Like that's what it really felt like. Mm-hmm. It's like, these guys, they're a couple. We're going on a vacation or whatever. Yeah,
when any sane person would be like, these people don't know each other that well.
It's like two.
He's really high strung.
Yeah, it's like two people. Like, okay, who put you on this blind date?
Exactly. Yeah, she knows it's a multi-pass, sweetie. She's so cute. Just got married. We're super excited, and she's just like.
I love it too because he just goes into this really kind of New York accent. It's a multi-pass. Okay, she gets it. But then they're off. They're off onto their trip. And then I love this robot, this droid that they have that's a bartender droid, because all it does, it just do you want some more? Do you want some more? That's all it says.
I love that. Yeah, Cornelius is finally just unburdening himself. He's like, okay, I did it. I can relax now. I'm gonna have a couple drinks. I'll probably go home and take a nap or something. And he's just unburdening himself to this robot. You know what I mean? No. It just shakes its head.
It just shakes its head.
Yeah. And then I love how David's just like, I fucked up, and takes his drink.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, I should have never given this to you. This is my mission. This is my destiny. And so he like decides to try and just do something. We'll see what he does, but it's really kind of funny. So then Corbin meets Ruby Rod, which is fun. And so he runs a radio show or whatever, something like that. I mean, he's just a big personality, pretty much.
Yeah, think of like the most annoying YouTuber influencer coupled with the most annoying DJ you've ever heard on the radio.
Yeah.
And give him a really loud microphone, and that's who Ruby Rod is, and he's fine with it. He's pretty fine with it. He's an entertainer. They take the entertainer personality and just crank it up, and it's like they told Chris Tucker, just go for it, and
go
he did.
For it. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And yeah, it's really funny. He like buzzes. He like, get away, you my entourage. And they're totally yes men.
They're totally yes men. They're like, oh my god, you did so great, honey. You were fantastic. And he's super feminine, but he's like kind of masculine too. He's this weird amalgamation. It's kind of like how Prince was super feminine but extremely masculine at the same time. And you couldn't really label him or put him in a box or anything like that. And he's just like, at the end of it, he just lights up a cigarette. And he's like, how did I do? And they're like, oh, you were great. And he tries giving like this pep talk to Bruce Willis. And Bruce Willis is just like, I don't give a shit about anything.
He literally lifts him off the ground and like chokes him. Yeah, yep. It's hilarious. Yeah, it's so funny. And so then, this joke keeps playing out. So the Mangalores show up as the wrong guy for Corbin Dallas. I guess they have this technology where they can like kind of blend themselves to look different.
It starts malfunctioning. Those two actors were really good. Like they barely have any dialogue as their own like voices. It's kind of like dubbed over with like the real Mangalore voice or whatever. But she's the female one is just like, stop it. And I love the concierge, the check-in girl who's just like, what?
Yeah. And then she like hits this button to scan like their body, and it's like danger, very dangerous. He's like, ugh.
It doesn't say like apprehend or stay away from it. It says dangerous.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, okay. And they're just like, yeah, we'll be right back.
Yeah.
And then a shootout ensues and everything.
Yeah. So then the main goal is get into a shootout with the cops. By the way, in this whole thing, it's again, there's just so many interesting choices. Because this is basically an airport. It's full of trash.
Literally, it's full of trash, and like I forget what it was, but I've always heard that New York City has always had a trash problem. Like in the 70s, there was a huge trash problem, I'm pretty sure, and then everything with Rudy Giuliani and putting it all on like on an island or some shit like that, or on a barge.
They sent it to Jersey. I mean that Jersey is like, I'm serious. Jersey. Like, you think I'm joking, but like that Jersey, half of Jersey exists to consume New York trash.
That is hilarious. But yeah, like there's always trash everywhere, and I just feel like that's like another like jab at like Americans and stuff like that from this like foreign filmmaker who's just exacerbates it, or maybe he's not. Maybe it's very true, but like New York City, I guess, has always had like a trash problem. So I think it's funny that it's everywhere. It's literally everywhere.
Yeah, it's just heaps and heaps and heaps of trash in this airport. In the airport. Like, how the hell did the trash get in? That's when you know there's a trash problem, right?
Yep.
It's even in the airport. Yeah, so they get into a shootout with the cops. The Mangalores get into a shootout with the cops. And then the right hand, he shows up. He's like, oh, I'm Corbin Dallas.
and she's just like, I'm not buying this anymore.
Yeah. And then she's like, peace out. I got one Corbin Dallas. He's already on the flight. Bye-bye.
Check-ins are over. And she just checks. She's like, I'm done.
Check-ins are over. And then he gets really mad and he like starts banging on the thing, and then these guns come out.
That's actually really in the yellow circles.
Yeah. That's actually really scary. Like, to be honest, that to me is like a true horror movie. Is like you are stuck with some machine that is threatening your life and it's just telling you to do things.
And if you don't comply the right way, you're going to get blown up.
Yeah, like that to me, that's really scary.
And this poor guy is so strung out. Like, he's been working so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and because then later he has this conversation with Zorg. He calls Zorg. Zorg's like, okay, you're on the plane, right? He's like, no, I'm sorry. The real Corbin Dallas, he's on the flight. I couldn't figure it out. And it's really funny too, because like, there's no way to get on this flight. And then you cut to Cornelius hiding inside of the plane. Yep. He like gets on the tire. So funny. And then Zorg blows him up. Zorg literally blows up his right-hand man. Just presses a button, just blows him up.
I'm disappointed.
So funny. Yeah. So another one of my favorite lines in this is like, so the plane's about to take off, and there are these workers that are like they're burning these, I don't know, I guess galactic parasites that
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, these things, and they're also kind of I guess it's a nuclear powered spaceship, because they take out these massive, or I don't know what this is green liquid that powers the ship, and so they're exchanging that and also burning off these, parasites. And the dude's like, and they're all like smoking weed or whatever while they're working. It's like, we need some heat, man. Give us some heat. Bring the heat over here, man.
I know. I love how they're like handling most likely this toxic material that makes the plane fly, and without any like hazard material like suits or anything like that. They're just like smoking a doobie and like putting the fuel in, basically. I liked that part. They're just like, yeah, man. Yeah. They love their job. It's so easy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, you just kill the parasites and you reload the plane. But yeah, you get this really, like, it's stuff like this that's like really good world building, because it's all these little details. It's really kind of fun and memorable. But it really shows you, like, this is a very kind of cosmopolitan place, There's all kinds of people. Like that guy looks like he's like Haitian or Jamaican or something, right? So yeah, it's really cool.
I also like that they show like the gross underbelly of something like a luxury liner or something like that. Like, it's still gross. Like, there's still parasites that grow on the ship wherever the hell they come from. Yeah. But they're bad enough to where they have to set them on fire.
Yeah, they have to set them on fire, and they kind of pulsate like when they burn them.
So gross.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we get this sexual stuff with Ruby Rod, which is kind of fun. So ridiculous.
Once again, so very 90s of having some kind of machine start and finish, if you know what I mean. Cut with a weird sex scene that is very 90s.
Yeah.
Like, they're inserting the thing or they're taking off.
Yeah.
There's an explosion and there's like,
Yeah. Yeah, they're like intercutting all this stuff, and it's like explosion. You see like a frame of this woman, and like the plane takes off. Yeah, like it's like, okay.
We get the metaphor. It's not that hard to see.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's totally ridiculous. But yeah, so then we get some more stuff. So like now the Lilu relationship with Corbin starts to kind of heat up, build up. She's like, "Oh, I'm the fifth element. I'll protect you." He's like, "Oh, okay." And then they get. I guess they have a button to put people to sleep.
Yeah, so that they sleep through like the long part of the journey or whatever. Maybe so they don't get sick. Like, I don't. What do they call it? Do they call it hyperspeed, or I forget? I don't know if they actually mentioned a name for it.
They might. I don't know if I don't think I remember.
Maybe it's just so they don't get sick, or this part of the journey is going to be super boring, so you might as well just take a nap, like, until we get to the good stuff. So, or maybe so you don't get jet lag when you get there. Who knows what it's for, but it knocks him out. But I do think it's cute how she's like, I think he even says like first, "Oh, I'll take care of you and I'll make sure nothing happens to you." And she's like, "Who the hell are you kidding?"
Yeah. She was. I'm the supreme being of the universe. I'll protect you.
You know who I am? Maybe I wasn't clear.
Yeah. I mean, and this was something I talked about before too, like in the, if this came out today, there'd be so much more. And this feels like the franchise potential on this is like so high, because we don't even really know much about Lilu. Like what her powers are. What can she do?
Yeah.
Right?
We get like a taste of it here and there, but we don't see the full potential, most of the full potential, until like the very end of the movie. But yeah, no, there's tons of stuff there that you could have gone further with, or possibly could go further with if they ever decide to do more with the story. And I don't know, did we ever really find out why Corbin wasn't in the military anymore? I assume it was something disgraceful, like maybe he bent the wrong rule or something. Maybe.
It actually does seem that he got an honorable discharge, but they don't really talk about that. It seems like he was just kind of over it.
Yeah.
He does make this comment about the military ruined my last marriage.
Oh yeah,
He kind
maybe
of
it
does
got
say
in the
that.
way of like him being with his wife and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
maybe it wasn't something like dishonorable. Maybe he was just kind of like, yeah, it ruined my marriage, left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, that's what it kind of seems like.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then they're off to on Floss in Paradise. And it's basically like going to Hawaii. They wake up, yeah, they wake up and it's like they got the hula people and they give you the leis. That's these the flowers. They give you the leis, and Corbin's got this massive suite. It's pretty nice setup. What they got this massive suite, and they even have like, okay, I don't know how they had suits that fit him on, like just ready, just like a whole closet full of them. And he also got a ticket to see the Diva's performance, like in the front seat with Ruby.
I feel like maybe when he walked through a body scanner, they sized him up and got his measurements. Maybe that's how they did it.
I mean, this is for like the richest of the rich, basically. Mm-hmm. This thing. Yeah, and so basically there's kind of this little thing that happens. So like they get there, the diva knows that what's her name is somewhere around, and she tells one of her like underlings to tell Lilu, like, I'll give you the stones after my performance. And hey, guess what? There's more kind of machinations happening here. The Mangalores are on the ship. The Mangalores somehow got onto the
those pesky Mangalores.
Yeah, those pesky Mangalores. Yeah, and so they have a plan where they want to get the stones so they can get back in Zorg. So they're impersonating some guy, and basically their plan is to take the stones from the diva and then hold them hostage to negotiate something from Zorg. So then we get this really cool the performance of the diva. Like this is like really fucking cool.
This is the only scene from this movie that I probably know. Probably. Because I got sucked down a rabbit hole of women actually performing this routine. Yeah. And there's one Chinese opera singer who basically did it. Like the whole thing.
It's possible. It is possible, yeah. It's supposed to be impossible for a human, but it is possible. And it's cool. Like, yeah, it's cool when you see actual people do it or whatever. No, it's a really cool song too.
It really is. Oh, and the one thing I love about the most is that it does sound very alien. Like it's this. Oh, it reminds again. I know I keep going back to Farscape, but Farscape's opening theme music is very similar with like this weird cosmic like harmonizing with female vocals and stuff like that. And it's very, very cool. And I just like the look of the alien too. Like I can't imagine like she is covered in so much. I'm assuming it's latex. I like can't imagine like your skin can't breathe in that shit.
It's I have you ever seen what was that movie? X-Men Apocalypse. I
think I did. That's the one with Oscar Isaac, right? Yeah, I've seen that one.
Oscar Isaac, he fucking hated doing that movie.
I don't blame him. And people hated watching it too. So
he said he fucking hated doing that movie. And he said he hated it because basically they actually did a practical prosthetic on his face, and it was hours of makeup. And then on top of that, they said that they also, because he was always in this makeup suit thing, he was like away from the other actors. So he was like off. He's basically exiled on his own. And so, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so he was like, fuck that movie, basically. I kind of like, yeah, go ahead.
I don't blame him. Like, I probably would have been pissed too.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of secretly like that movie, but that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I it's not good, but I had fun with it. So yeah, anyway, this diva performance is like this is probably one of the best parts of the movie. It's so fucking cool. And this song it goes through a lot of different, so like at first it's very operatic, and then it kind of goes into this very poppy kind of part of it.
Poppy techno-ish, very 90s techno.
Yeah, exactly. Very 90s techno. And then, meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Like the Lilu's somewhere. Lilu's just like chilling. Like she's just like, she like went around the corner of where the diva is and just like stayed there. It's kind of interesting.
I think she was probably just going to wait for her to like show up probably after her performance. And then.
Oh, you know what it really is? Now that I think about this, I think that she was kind of scared. Because I think that she, like, basically her thing is she's like, she doesn't think she can do it, I think. I think she's kind of afraid. She doesn't think she can actually do it. And I think the other thing, too, is she's kind of, there's sort of an existential dread.
Living like up to expectations and stuff like that.
And also, I think that there was, because she does all this stuff where she goes on the internet or whatever, and I think she kind of, it's almost like someone who goes on like 4chan for the first time. Like you really start to like, whoa, okay, human beings are terrible, and you start to have that, okay, is this really worth saving? I think that's what's kind of going on.
She had some self-doubt and some questions that need to be answered for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so she's chilling, and then the Mangalores just come in and they start killing. They kill the diva's whole entourage looking for the stones. And that pisses Lilo off. Pisses her off because then, the Mangalores killed her, basically, and her other Mandashiwa people. They blew up that aircraft. So she's like, okay, fuck this. I'm gonna beat these people up. And so then she goes in, and we get this fun montage of the singing and her fighting these guys. And so what'd you think of this fight where she's like fighting these guys?
Oh, it was fun. It wasn't like the Matrix or anything like that, but it was fun nonetheless. You get to see her prowess. You get to see like she can take on a whole Mangalore, platoon or whatever they call it, all by herself and be pretty successful at it. And I think she kind of likes it too. She's having fun with them. She's taunting them. And I thought it was a really good scene.
Yeah, it's fun. Cause she does all that, like, and it does get a little cartoony. There's a lot of like, literally like out of a cartoon where she like slaps a guy in the face. Yep. She lines this guy up and there's a guy behind her and she does like the punch both of them, punch the guy behind you, punch the guy. I mean, to be fair, I think the Mangalores, they're depicted as not being like really intelligent. Mm-hmm. But they do. But by the way, we got to talk about like they look really cool.
Oh yeah, they look pretty good. That was some good costumes and makeup and everything like that. That was really good.
So cool. It's really cool. I kind of feel bad for them, to be honest. Like they
were just being used. They were totally being used by like the bad guy.
Well, everybody. I mean, we'll see later. Like they get a rough deal. They need to just get the fuck out of it. I don't know what happened to their culture where they ended up basically being mercenaries for hire. Mm-hmm. But that was not good for them. Let's put it that way.
No, not at all.
It's not good at all for them. But yeah, so she beats up these Mangalores. Zorg, and also Zorg. So Zorg is like, okay, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to get these stones myself. So he tricks the Floston crew into letting him onto the ship. He's like, oh, I need repairs. My ship is damaged. And the captain's like, lets him on. And this is an interesting scene with the captain and this other guy. It's like, oh, sir, there's someone's requesting permission to board. They need repairs. It's like, oh, let them into the docking bay. Ja. He just says ja, and he just walks away. It's like, okay. Is that how they talk?
I guess so.
Oh my god! And but then Zorg shows up. And he's like, "Oh, thank you for doing all the dirty work for me. Give me the stones." And so she throws this thing at him, and he shoots at her. He's like trying to shoot her and kill her. And so at this point, everything goes wrong. So the Mangalores, when they see that Lilu takes them out, they're like, "Oh, we got ambushed." And so they're like, "Okay, screw it. Let's just take everyone hostage on this ship." So they come out, guns blazing. They just start shooting people, and they shoot the diva. everyone's panicking. So, and I really like this set that they had for the opera. It's really cool. It's really cool. But yeah, everyone's now fleeing. Everyone's running. Ruby and it's really funny. Ruby and Corbin get stuck there while everyone else is fleeing. So there's a bunch of Mangalores coming at them, and they're stuck, and everyone else. And like it's so funny. Like the entourage is like, "No, Ruby, we need you, Ruby, no!" But then they get taken off, and like Ruby Rod's stuck. And but he's also broadcasting this. I don't know what you would call it. It's like a
vocal stream of consciousness, basically. Yeah. Like he's not. You can't see him. There's no visuals, but he's just talking. He just keeps broadcasting because he has 2 hours to broadcast.
Yeah. So another thing that, and again, this is something that because this film is like it's kind of in and of itself, and they don't really answer the questions. Lilu gets shot a bunch of times, but she doesn't die.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, they never explain it or tell us or anything. I mean, but of course, my mind's like, okay, she can probably regenerate or something like that, But they never tell us. They never really tell us, and so we just have to make it up ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, it's so interesting because it's totally the opposite of the world we live in now.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so because like now we'll give you everything, and it's all about putting stuff into the viewer's mind about what the character can do and all their powers and all that. But with her, it's just she's the supreme being of the universe, and we get the fight scene, and that's about it. And we see her get shot, and she doesn't die.
Yeah, I'm assuming she has some kind of regenerative powers, but maybe it's taking her a while because she also feels really defeated. So that existential crisis is now kind of bleeding into her ability to heal herself because she's kind of like giving up. She's kind of like, I don't really know if you're worth saving anymore because I went on the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
That's a great point. Yeah, she is very deflated. She's very deflated at this point in the story. But yeah, so she gets shot up. She like goes into the ceiling or whatever, and then Zorg shoots her up. But then he just bounces. He just leaves. He sets a bomb for 20 minutes. And there's this conversation with the diva, and basically the diva says, "Oh, the fifth element needs your love. She needs your help, or else she's gonna die." Blah blah blah. And yeah, Corbin, I think he kind of doesn't get it at first, but then he's like, "Oh, okay, now I see." And then she's like, "Oh, the stones are in me," and so he literally has to take the stones out of this dead alien stomach.
That was rough.
Yeah. No, what I'm wondering is like, okay, this is the other thing too. Like,
oh, I think I lost you. I don't know if you can still hear me. Brief intermission, folks. Well, it's just me for now. We're having some technical difficulties. I'd tell you some jokes, but I don't know any good ones, so. Except, how did the farmer find his wife? Tractor. Crash. This is a thread that I just pulled from my comforter. It's red. That's what's happening until we come back with our regularly scheduled program. There you are. Hi.
Yeah, sorry about
mumbling. I've literally just been mumbling to myself. I told a bad joke and that was it.
No, it's all good. Sorry about that. My computer just reset or whatever.
No worries.
But yeah, what I was saying was like, okay, so the diva had to eat these things, right?
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that. I don't know if she could swallow them or if there was some kind of operation.
But okay, so this is what just kind of came to my mind, right? So I feel like it makes sense that she would eat them because, like, if you think about it, it's like it has to do with the fact that she can like sing well, pretty much. So she's able to like create these kind of weird vocal ranges, and so yeah, she could just swallow these stones.
No problem. Knock them back.
Yeah. So she just like ate them.
Water with some. Yeah.
But yeah, again, those are more like things that are just left for our imagination. There's so much. There's just so much that they just leave out there for us to think about, and it's all just in this movie, and nothing else. It's all in your head.
It's all in your head. It's left for you to wonder and think about for a while.
Yeah. So yeah, I that's definitely like something interesting. That yeah, she basically ate these stones, and then he had to pull them out of her stomach, and she's got all this blue blood. It's really interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then Corbin is like, I forget, they make some jokes, which is some kind of funny jokes about this, but basically he tries to shoot his way out of the situation. He comes out guns blazing. He comes out, he shoots like 4 or 5 of them, and then but he's outgunned because they have like this, I don't know what, a turret. It's literally a turret, and they fire like a missile at him. And then, he's just trying to survive, and he has to like jump off into this, like basically it's a bar. He's taking cover in a bar. Mm-hmm. And then we get this weird joke where, so they talk about there's this guy, I guess he's a rich guy or something, whatever, but he's deaf. He can't hear anything, basically. And Corbin is like, oh, hey, just give me the gun. Give me the gun.
Yeah. The gun.
And the guy's like, it's just like your balls.
It's like,
and
what the hell am I going to do with that?
Yeah. And then, Corbin, he figures out a way out of it. Like, he's again, the Mangalores are not very smart. They get him right, but then, they don't really take him out. He's like, oh no, don't shoot me. I'm just here with my wife or whatever.
Yep.
It's like, dude, this guy just killed like 8 people. Like, you probably don't want to, you probably want to take him more seriously than they did.
Yeah.
And then we get this, again, kind of cartoony thing where he like, one of the Mangalores is on basically a seesaw. Mm-hmm. And so then Corbin jumps and the guy seesaws up, and then he just starts firing at random, kills some people. Yeah.
He kills all of his friends, basically.
Kills all of his friends. Corbin takes his gun. And then some more Mangalores. So like Ruby is up a floor, and so then the Mangalores come out from the top floor, and they're like looking for Corbin. Corbin shoots around Ruby to make the thing collapse, which is
there's some shenanigans.
Yeah, there's some cartoony ass shit in this movie, but it's fun,
Yeah.
And then Corbin throws a bomb up beneath where the other Mangalores are. It's like count to 10, and they get under the billiard table, and they're like trying to escape. They're getting shot at, and then the bomb explodes. Like Ruby's like, oh my god, he's so funny in this, like
screaming hysterically, which I would probably be doing too in this situation. I'd probably be pretty hysterical too.
He's like man, I feel like they probably just told him just keep going crazier. Because he is just screaming.
On top of the fact that he has a microphone attached to his face. Like, yeah. It just amplifies it even more.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so they've now then there's this other thing where so the Mangalores they took over the ship, the helm of the ship, and so they have all the people hostage. And so Corbin goes there, and Cornelius is there too. Cornelius is like he got sucked into the situation. And so then they're trying to figure out what to do with this hostage situation. So Corbin's like, oh, let me handle it. Like the other guy, like there's some other guy. He's like a comedic actor. I've seen him in some other stuff. I forget exactly. I saw him in, I forget what it was called, but he did this movie with Nathan Lane where they buy this Mouse Hunt. Yeah. I
recognized him immediately. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
he was in Mouse Hunt. I love that movie.
Yeah. so he's like, oh yeah, I'm here to negotiate. But I've never negotiated before. He's like, let me negotiate.
I'll take it.
Yeah, and so then Corbin like shoots like 5 of them. He just like shoots them and kills them. And then he's like, oh, the Mangalores, they don't negotiate without the leader. We got to find the leader. And then the Mangalore leader's like, he literally got Cornelius at gunpoint. He's like, we're going someone to negotiate. It's like, oh, I think that's the leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. And he comes in and just shoots him in the head.
Yeah, another thing with like, I feel like 90s action hero tropes is that they never miss unless it's the real bad guy. But if it's just like the B class bad guys, they never miss. They always get it.
And so this is why I feel so bad for the Mangalores. Like, all they wanted was more weapons or whatever. Like they're not in the situation to like kill people really.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like a series of bad things, because like you can see the line where it's like let's say their planet got invaded, right? The Federation didn't help them. They become outcasts, so then they become basically mercenaries for hire for anyone.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, can you really blame them for trying to get as much money out of every situation as they can?
Exactly. Again, it's one of those things about this movie that leaves you wondering and guessing about what motivates them and what made them become mercenaries for hire, basically. And they're not very good at it, but no, it's like not. All they can do, maybe to like get some more weapons, better ships, maybe some food. Who knows what's going on with the rest of them?
Yeah, get their own planet or something, mm-hmm. Be able to protect themselves. Because like negotiate probably meant like let us get out of here.
Yep.
Give us guns or something. Give us some money.
Negotiate, just shoots them.
Yeah, I feel so bad. I feel so bad for them because they just get screwed over again and again and again and again. And again, they're not the big bad. They're just some, they're the bumbling idiots. But I don't know. I felt bad in that situation for them. So then okay, they've de-escalated that. Corbin finds Lilu. She's like in the Diva suite, just like hanging there, kind of again. And there's like a scene we see her. She's just having some kind of crisis. She's just like crying and she's sad, like you were saying. But then they find, oh, hey, look, there's a bomb. And it's like, no, it's not a bomb. Like if there was a bomb, then the thing would go off and tell us it's a bomb and tell us to evacuate. And then immediately it's like, there is a bomb on board. You have to evacuate now. They're like, oh shit.
I know. I love how Chris Tucker grabs like Ian Holm. He's like, that's not what I think it is, right? Like he doesn't even know who Cornelius is. He just grabs the first person he sees.
Yeah.
And is like, that's not what I think it is, right?
He's like, no, if it was a bomb. Like I just love the way he talks. It's so funny.
He's almost like he's trying to reassure himself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. So then Zorg comes back. And he just starts shooting people because he knows there's a bomb. He knows, but he's looking for the stones. So he comes back on board. And so we get this funny kind of thing. So he comes in as they're leaving. And so they don't even see each other. They just totally pass each other. And then they steal his ship to escape. And so then he gets on, Zorg's on there. He deactivates the bomb, but the Mangalores have a backup bomb.
Yeah, the Mangalores kind of get the last laugh on them.
They do get the last laugh. And the backup bomb blows up the whole ship. And Corbin, Lilu, Cornelius, and Ruby, they get the hell out of there. And then, basically the great evil's like, okay, my pawn got destroyed, so now I have to go and destroy Earth. It's time to just do it. Because basically they wanted to get the stone so that there was no way that Earth could protect itself, but didn't have enough time, so he's just gonna go and blow up. And so basically it's like a massive meteor headed towards Earth. It's just gonna blow it up. And then so they talk to the president. The president's like, okay, you have like 2 hours before it blows up the Earth. And Corbin was like, okay, I'll talk to you in 2 hours. Bye-bye. And they're like, what? No! So they're flying to the temple to, stop basically they have the stones, they have Lilu, they have to activate the weapon before it destroys the planet. Okay, so then they get to the temple and they have the stones, but they don't know how to activate them. They don't know what to do. And Lilu's kind of not really being forthcoming. She's sad still. Yeah, and so she tells them some stuff, but it's very vague. It's like, oh, the wind blows, and the it's like what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, I know wind blows, but how does that help us, kind of a thing. And I love that they discover it completely by accident.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and it's David, like the most useless character, like kind of helps him figure it out, because he's exasperated, like, oh, we're all gonna die or whatever, we're not gonna make it, and he kind of sighs deeply, and it kind of opens up, and then they're like, oh, okay, so like you got to blow wind to get wind, you got to use fire to get fire, you got to use earth to get earth, and water to get water. So they're opening all the things, and then they're like, oh, I don't have a match, I don't have anything to make fire, and so Corbin has like one match left, and we get the super dramatic like
Oh yeah.
But then, yeah, he's able to like do it and open it. But then, still, you gotta activate the fifth element, which is Lilu. And so she's just like, because then I forget. I think it was while she's on the plane. She goes on the internet again, and I feel like we've all been there, right? Where you go on the internet and you just get in that bad. You get to the bad part, and you just start getting.
Yeah.
That's what she did.
Yeah, you just start getting bombarded with like bad news, and you just kind of give up a little bit.
Yeah, she went on the bad part of the internet, and she just started consuming some real, she's like, and she read about the coronavirus, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. World War II, Nazis, the bomb, all of the bad stuff.
All the bad stuff. And so she just has like this existential crisis, and she's just like, doesn't believe that she can do it. And so basically Corbin's like, pretty much he just says, I love you. Like, oh, you have to do it because I love you. I need you. And then they make out, and then it's like, it works. So basically the fifth element is love. That's what the fifth element is. Yeah. Yeah. And they do it. They stop the great evil. And the great evil, so then, all these elements come together, and then they're channeled through her, and they destroy the great evil, stop it. And the great evil basically turns into like a moon. That's also implied in this interesting universe. For real, yeah. Very interesting stuff. But yeah, the good guys win. And yeah, so what do you think about this ending? Like, how did it work for you? Did you like it?
Yeah, it worked fine for me. They defeat evil. Lilu, discovers her true power, and she's still a boss ass, lady. And love conquers all, man. Love conquers all.
Love conquers all. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, the movie ends. We get this kind of little postscript where they're in some, I don't know, some kind of healing chamber or something, and they're making out or whatever. The president showed up, and then the president talks to the mom.
Yeah, he gets an earful from the mom character.
You're not the president. The president's an asshole. You don't sound like an asshole. My son, where's my son? Yeah, it's hilarious. That character's so spot on, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what'd you think? Like this? So this is like the first time you've really kind of seen the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think? Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. I would definitely watch it again. It's again one of those moments where I'm just like, I probably should have watched it sooner. But I'm glad I'm watching it now at least. I don't know if I ever really had the opportunity to, or ever really wanted to. Like, I've heard about the movie for years, but I just never watched it. But no, I really liked it. I'm glad I watched it because it's such a random amount of different actors that I never would have like put together before, and I like movies like that. I think they tend to give off a lot of good chemistry with one another, and it's just really good. There's moments where you can tell Bruce Willis is trying not to laugh at Chris Tucker. Like, that was the best take they could use of him not laughing. And it was just really good. Also, like, I feel like Bruce Willis is one of those actors who's actually in more sci-fi movies than people give him credit for. Like, I feel like I've seen him in a bunch of different sci-fi kind of movies. Maybe not a bunch, but, like, there's a few.
There are a few, yeah. He's done a lot of different stuff, actually. Yeah, because this is really, I really good. What'd you think of like the way they did his hair in this?
Oh, I thought it fit the aesthetic
Yeah.
of like the whole thing. Like even his shirt is weird. Like there's like
It
weird
is.
holes in it in the back. Like it's not like a wife beater or something like that. It's just, it's just a weird shirt that he's wearing. I thought it was fine. I thought it looked good.
Yeah, it's very cool. There's a lot. There's definitely like we were talking about the way that they depict the future, and all the stuff with the trash and all the stuff with the really bulky kind of outfits of like the police and like those aliens at the beginning. It's very unique. It's a very unique take on the future.
Yeah, that's
sure.
why I'm just like, it has its own flavor to it. It's not like any other sci-fi movie or TV show you'll watch again. It's very much its own thing. It's like its own brand of sci-fi that I really like.
Totally. I really kind of wish that they would do a sequel, or it had. I mean, now it's too late, really. But I just feel like the world that they built is like, there's so much there. There really is, and there's a lot that just gets touched on the surface.
Oh yeah, it's all very surface level stuff. It goes much deeper. It could go much deeper. Because clearly they've defeated this evil before. It's not the first time it's come around, and it will come back again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like if this movie was made today, and if it was like moderately successful, I mean, man, this movie would have spawned like a million things, TV shows.
Oh, absolutely,
movies.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's just so ripe with stuff. Yeah, I feel like when it came out, it was kind of successful, but I remember like just seeing it a lot. It was on TV a lot. It was in a lot of places, and so I didn't see it in the theater, but I did see it like on television. I felt like almost immediately it was like in my brain, all the time. I think. Any other last comments or thoughts on this movie?
Not really. Just watch it. It's fun. It's engaging. It's like about 2 hours long, but it clips along fairly well and fairly quickly. Keeps you engaged, and it's funny. It's actually a really funny movie. I wasn't expecting it to be as humorous as it actually turned out to be, especially that scene with Zorg and he's choking on the cherry and all that crazy stuff starts happening. Like that was something I was not expecting, and it just kept going. Like the gags in the movie are really good.
Yeah. He's like pressing all these buttons, and it gets more random. Like stuff. It's like.
Yeah, it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. And the gag with everyone impersonating Corbin is just great. That, like that said, that's a gag that keeps going for like 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's like a whole thing in the movie, basically. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I'd love to see more stuff like about like what caused the Mangalores to be the way they were, because I felt like there's a good story there, actually.
Yeah, and I'd like to see more of like, of like Lilu's like home world and where she's really from. Who was she before she became this incarnation of who she was or is, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Or anything about them, like you were saying, like you kind of postulated like maybe they are nomadic. They don't want to stay on a home world for some reason because they feel the need to, like, they don't want to be a target, maybe. Because they are. Were
the stones like always on Earth? They must have been somewhere before being on Earth if they're that old too. So
that's a great point too, because maybe there are other people that are part of this, the order that Cornelius is, but there are other alien races.
Well, I think that there are, because the diva was very, very much willing to help them. And it was very secretive. And I think maybe somewhere on her home world, maybe the stones were on their world at one point, and it's her duty to, keep going with that, with a tradition of some kind. So I definitely think there's other aliens who are involved with them for sure.
Yeah, totally. It is kind of funny though that the diva is this alien and her entourage is all humans. Like there's no. Like there's no other of her race that are in her entourage.
Well, probably because that makeup costs a lot of money. They're like, yeah, we can only do this once. We can only do this one time.
Could you imagine, because what's so brutal about doing that stuff is so you have to put on that makeup for hours, right?
Exactly.
And then on top of that, you then have to basically get in early and just sit in a chair and get stuff put on you for hours.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it makes your day even longer.
Yeah. So imagine doing that to like 3 people instead of 1. Like, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was funny. So it does make sense that to postulate, oh, well, her race of aliens had also been guardians at some point of the stones.
I think it's definitely a very high possibility that they were, because she swallowed stones, for God's sakes. Like, that's someone who takes it pretty seriously what they're doing.
Yeah, totally. She was willing to just eat them. Because that's the thing too, is like, if she lived, what was the plan there?
I don't know. I think maybe it was a one-way trip. Give a great performance and go out with a bang.
Oh, go out. Yeah, because that does make me. It just actually makes me think of a lot of kind of interesting things. I mean, we probably would never see it in a PG-13 movie, but I can maybe imagine she has such control of her bodily organs. Maybe she could just puke them back up.
Maybe. Who knows? Like, it's pretty crazy to think about. It's wild.
It is super wild. It is super wild. But anyway, yeah. So this movie was really solid. Definitely recommend it. It's one of my favorites. The more I watch, the more I like it. They did a 4K restoration of this movie. Looks really good. Looks really good. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend that. It's one of the better ones that I've seen too. It's a little, like the one I've seen, it's a little grainy, but film has that grain quality to it.
It does, yeah.
And that's what makes film. And this was shot on film. So yeah, it's a really beautiful film. And especially watching that scene with the diva in 4K, it's phenomenal.
The sound mixing for it was amazing. It was so good. Like, you started with a really traditional operatic, musical number, that it gets to that weird 90s techno, but it still works with the way she's vocalizing, and it sounds great. I love it.
Yeah. I really like this movie. You would definitely recommend it. It's one of my favorites of all time. It's one of those. It's got nostalgia. It's funny. It's cool. There's just so much there to think about in terms of the world that I just really like this movie. So, all right, cool. Well, yeah, thanks a lot, everybody. Really appreciate you stopping by and listening to us talk about Fifth Element. And we'll see you next time. May the force be with you.
Live long and prosper.